Strange things are happening every day. I hear the music up above my head. Oh, the side of my heart has left me again. I hear music up above. Secrets are written in the sky. Looks like I've lost the love I've never found. Though the sound of hope has left me again, I hear music up above. Standing in my broken heart all night long. Darkness held me like a friend when love wore off. Looking for the lamb that's hidden in the cross, but find is lost. I know I've loved you too much. I'll go on alone to get through. I hear Rosetta singing in the night, echoes of light that shine like stars after they're gone. And tonight she's my guide as I go on alone with the music up above.
All right, everybody, I'm going to call this meeting to order. No, this is actually purposefully being held in a club rather than a church. It's going to be a little bit more freewheeling, I suppose, than the average situation. But we do have a little bit of a program. I'm just going to introduce it, and then we'll proceed. I've asked... Oh, I'm Nate. I'm Ginny's husband. I guess most of you know that. I think more people know me than I know them. There are a lot of people who knew and loved Ginny, and I'm frankly overwhelmed by the number of people that have come. Thank you. It means a lot to us. As far as the program goes, I've asked several of Ginny's friends and family to come give just some brief recollections from different periods in her life that they knew her. I will give you the list so the speakers know when they're supposed to be coming up. But I have not asked them to speak about anything in particular, so I will be entertained to see what they say as well. Our first speaker will be Mike Fullwood. He is Ginny's cousin. He's known her the longest. The next person will be Shelley Tilton, who was Ginny's neighbor when they were teenagers. The next person will be Julie Duffin. She was a missionary companion, roommate, friend, something. But we've had a lot of good times with Julie, and I know Ginny has had some good times with Julie that I wasn't around for, so I'd like to hear about it. The next speaker will be Joy Tappan. Joy is a dear friend from our days in Boston, and I'll be interested to see what she says as well. Probably some nice things. The next speaker will be Kelly Simmons, who's going to speak about the PTA and Ginny's work with the PTA during the last couple of years of her life. And then the final 5-minute speaker will be Jessie Lemon, who is a neighbor and also another close friend. So just to reiterate, Mike, you're going first. Shelley, you're going second. Julie, you're third. Joy, you're fourth. Kelly, you're fifth. And Jesse, you're sixth. And then I've invited another dear friend, Fatima Saleh, who's going to deliver a speech. We'll call it a eulogy, I guess. And then I'm going to be back up here after she's done. So, Mike, let's kick it off.
Well, hello, everyone. Just to be clear, was that closer? Okay. About 3 or so weeks ago, Nate sent me a text message, asked me to say a few words at this, and I was very honored, but what he didn't say was I'd be first. We had a little discussion in the back that this is complete crap, that I am the first one speaking. His justification was I've known her the longest since we were young, so we were starting chronologically. My argument was I still knew her now. I'm not in her life, but Ginny is my buddy. Ginny is a very good person and a very good friend to me. Ginny always used to say that her memory of growing up with me was either in the back of my dad's truck or in the back of her father's truck, Dale, because we're either in the way or they just wanted to corral us someplace. Our entire childhood was in the back of a truck. We weren't old enough. We were both the youngest. I'm the youngest in my family. My mother is Ginny's father's sister. Grew up together, camping together, everywhere else together. And we were always youngest, and we never got to ride in the front, so we always had to ride in the back of the truck. Ginny was a very soulful person. And if you knew her, you knew her. She was the least insincere person I've ever known. If Ginny ever asked you what was going on with you, it's because she genuinely cared and wanted to know. You could feel Ginny when you talked to her. You could feel her when she told you what was important to her. She couldn't keep a straight face for a lie. In fact, it's a shame I never played poker with her because I could read her so well. After growing up a bit and having kids, still stayed close with her, as close as we could, her living everywhere but Utah for so many years. But when she moved back to Utah, her and Nate, it was like we didn't skip a beat. Again, she was very nice, very sincere. She had a mean side. It rarely showed, but it was there. One of my favorite treks, you always think back as an adult thinking, oh, that was such a marvelous time, but at the time it was occurring, it was very difficult, is my mother and her brother decided that we were going to drive across the country in an old camper and their Volkswagen Jetta to North Carolina. And about day 5 into it, we were 8 hours from our destination in Charleston, South Carolina, sitting in the back of the camper, And Ginny's making sandwiches. She was making tuna fish. The only thing I said to her was, don't put too much mayo in it. Ginny locked eyes with me, reached for the mayo jar, took out a massive scoop of mayo, and threw it in and started mixing it up and just smiled at me. It was about that time that the only other guy on the trip, Dale, stood up in the back. Mike, let's go. Pulled me out and went and got some air. Ginny believed in God. Ginny was very close to God. I wouldn't call her a religious person. I would call her a very spiritual person. Just so you know, Nate, I had a hard time this week thinking about what to say. I really did. But she was so loved and lived so well. And I dare anyone to say anything negative about her. She was such a good person. And from my family that I'm here representing to you, Nate, thank you so much for taking such good care of her. And to Dale and his family, thank you so much for giving us such a wonderful person. Thank you.
Hopefully I can get through this. As I sorted through the memories that I have of one of the most wonderful people I know, I couldn't narrow it down. But three things really stood out to me. First, her smile. You learn to read Ginny's smiles. There was the I'm not trying to cry, I'm trying not to cry smile, right? There's the I'm totally lying smile. There's the, and it was a different smile. She would smile and she would pull the sides of her lips down, and then she'd crinkle her eyes and her nose would come up just a little bit, and I knew we were in for trouble. Whatever she had just thought of usually meant about 2.5 hours later, we'd be in front of Del and Karen and my mom and my dad in trouble. And it usually involved a horse in some way, shape, or form. But I just wrote down the memories, and I hope that you will use your imagination and what you know of Ginny. Music videos in her basement, and Karen coming down and telling us to shut up a lot. She introduced me to popcorn and M&Ms. The perfect ratio being 1 M&M to 3 kernels of popcorn, depending on the butter saturation. Okay. The SSS Society, dances, late nights on her driveway. And the fact that I made her walk me home. I lived next door. There was a driveway in between our houses. But that man over there used to sneak around the front and scare the living daylights out of both of us every time. So I never went home by myself. She always had to walk me home to protect me from her dad. Our house, finally, my parents and her parents put a fence, a gate, an arbor, a gate in between us so that we didn't have to climb the fence anymore. We went swimsuit shopping together. We explored exotic places like the mall as teenagers. Got our driver's licenses about the same time. We had big hair together, which was awesome. We would, every morning in the summer, go first thing in the morning and get Candy, her horse, and Junior, my horse. And we would ride up to an outlet point and watch the sun come up and talk about what we wanted our life to be. She introduced me to Queen via Katie. Thank you. I want you to know that I'm properly educating my children. They know who that is. I remember riding in her old beat-up Bronco that had Bondo on the side with the windows down and my feet hanging out the side and Queen or something playing. We had lots of girl talks and Sunday walks. We watched Room with a View together for the first time and decided that must be the way our first kiss should be. We set each other up on blind dates with our cousins, Mike. Her giggle, there's not a memory I don't have that doesn't have Denise giggle.
She had a labor pain. She had a couple of labor pains, and she doesn't like it at all. She wants drugs.
That's right.
Here's the mom. Look, she's wearing her normal clothes again. She's so excited. She's not wearing maternity clothes anymore. Oh, are you shy? Are you shy for the camera?
Ew, no! Ew, not what we're making cookies. Okay. I can't stand it anymore. Oh.
Do it again, Isaac. Mom, I'm not getting her lower half.
Thanks.
But this is Mom. She's been feeding Isaac on her new recliner. Woo woo, look at that recliner. I can't show her legs because she doesn't have any pants on. This is our first Christmas. I got her this, and this is the third time she's worn it.
It's not either. That's not true.
Highly successful piece of jewelry.
Room that they've destroyed. Having such a good time, but still. What fun, huh?
Watch out!
Almost!
Okay. Kissing a baby chick.
You're grossed out, huh? Oh, just relax. We're on the farm. Kate!
I want to have a turn.
Don't kiss the beak, Sadie.
I'm not
Because you don't know where that beak has been.
I'm not pecking.
Yeah.
And it might pick.
Oh, Mom, chill out. It's cool.
I know about dogs. I just don't know about chicks. You're awesome. And how did you get it?
Sadie, no.
That's funny. So, tell me, Dad of almost 4, what did you choose to wear today?
That skull t-shirt. See that? It's a bandit.
And did you regret that decision?
A little bit. I had a sweater on before, and it turns out they heat this place to 30 degrees.
Yeah. So you were very warm.
Very warm. That means not sweater weather.
So have you strategically placed your pen?
I moved it. I had it right here in the way of the face so that it obscures the face. It doesn't look so badass.
Yeah. Oh, you know what?
What?
I'm going to sign off.
You're having a contraction?
Yeah.
Okay. Is Mommy cutting your hair?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. No, we don't. We don't hit other kids. Oh.
I like to eat apples and bananas.
You keep moving.
I like to eat apples and bananas.
Cute.
I like to.
There you go.
Perfect guy.
Nice.
Good timing.
There's not a memory I don't have that doesn't have Ginny's giggle. We watched Lost Boys together. Another reason why she had to walk me home. And we played Murder in the Dark. We had drill team formals together. We had car accidents together. We had our mission calls together. We had Halloweens together and 4-H horse parades together. And we bathed her dog Gertie together. We talked philosophy, politics, and poetry, sometimes at the same time. I wouldn't recommend it. It doesn't work really well. We tried to crack the boy code. She unsuccessfully tried to teach me how to flirt. I grew up with 6 brothers, and I speak boy. I don't speak girl. And we went to college together. We lived a couple blocks away from each other at BYU when we were first married. We made mistakes together, and we prayed together. We got married in the same year. I would call her and say, "Hey, I just found out I'm pregnant." And she would say, "Me too." So we were baby bumps together. I remember feeling horribly ashamed that I was so excited that there had been a tsunami in Japan, which meant that Ginny was coming home, not just coming for the summer. And I remember the summer that we were both there when we had moved away, and we watched our children play on the lawn together. And our good friend Amy was there, and we started counting noses and wondered how in the world that huge posse of kids had come from the 3 of us. And I remember one of the last things that I heard her say which was, there just wasn't enough time. Because in all the time that I spent with her, I never imagined being here. But I am so grateful for that wonderful, beautiful, perfect person who so blessed my life and was a kindred spirit. I'm so wonderful that she found you, Nate. It's wonderful to me. You are pretty wonderful. She was pretty wonderful too. And I love how beautiful that your life together was. I know someday I'll catch up with her. I've been trying my whole life to catch up with her. Thank you.
So my name is Julie Duffin, and Ginny always called me Holy, and I always called her Bullets, and there's a story behind that. But the reason for the confusion with Nate was whether we were friends, roommates, companions, what we were on the mission. We were all of those things. And the confusion is, I think it was a blessing that we weren't actual companions because we easily distracted each other, and I basically could talk her into doing anything, and that wasn't a good combination. And on the mission, what we were companions because her companion would have to go home, and then she would be our companion. And then our companions got sick, and so then we were companions together. And so we went from being friends, companions, roommates throughout that time. And so basically we were all of those things to each other. And the reason for the nickname, I'm trying to think of a good way. I talked to Nate before this, a proper way to tell you this story. But she earned that nickname because when we first became friends, companions, roommates, we were walking in Hong Kong. And I looked over at her, and something struck me as just a little bit different. And the first thought I thought in my mind was, her mom was trying to support her figuratively and literally, if you know what I mean. And so she was very supported on the mission. And I told her one day, I said, Ginny, you, how am I going to say this? I said, Ginny, you are very well supported. And she said, my mom made sure that I had the best support on my mission that I could get. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? And so she, if I can describe it, another one of her friends and from the mission is here, and she said it was kind of like Marilyn Monroe. So if you can picture that, that's kind of what I'm talking about. So from then on, I called her Bullets. And Nate said oftentimes he also called her Bullets. And so we always joked about it, and she sometimes even referred to herself as Bullets, and that's how she's in my phone, is as Bullets. And so that's a really good memory that we have. I was going through other things, and I don't know if this was a trait on the mission, the stress of a mission, but I can ask her family and friends. I went back to read all of her letters she sent after the missions and things we'd written each other on the mission, and I really regret not going back for some translation because her handwriting was just something I couldn't really translate all the time. But we have such good memories together, and I appreciate what a comfort she was to me all throughout the mission. And as I talked to other people through the mission, that's what she was to them, was a comfort, and she was peace. And when I go back to being able to talk her into anything, I posted this memory, but we couldn't get over. I was always the one with the ideas, and she was always the one giggling and doing whatever I could talk her into. So one day we couldn't get into the church area, and so I talked her into climbing the fence. And the problem was, because the fence was locked, the problem was we got stuck at the top and we couldn't get down. And then she started giggling, I started laughing, and another companion took a picture, and all of a sudden we saw headlights before we knew what was happening, and the bishop and his counselors were pulling up, and they saw these sister missionaries on top of the fence in their dresses, and we still laughed about that. As far as being easily distracted, her and I, it was good we weren't assigned companions, because when we got together, I don't know how, but we would just get talking and so distracted. And so one day we were on a bus, the double-decker bus, and we were just talking, and both of us were struggling at the time, and so we were really, it seemed like she was always comforting me. And so we got talking, and we went by, and on this river in Satine is a restaurant that's floating. And so we were going by, and, she in her beautiful, peaceful way just said how she was so descriptive. And she just said, look at this beautiful floating restaurant. And someday we're going to go together. Someday we're going to be at that beautiful floating restaurant. And then we got talking, and we got going, and we left early enough that we could get to an appointment. But we got talking, and then I don't know how much longer, because we couldn't even keep track of time when we were together. We went around again, and I looked over and saw that floating restaurant, and I started saying, someday we're going to go to that and we stopped, because we'd been around that floating restaurant a few times, and we hadn't gotten off the bus. So we were late to our appointment. We were late to where we were going because we were so easily distracted by each other. In our last conversation we had, she didn't have very much strength, and so there were only a few things she could say, and one of the things she did say to me was, we had a good mission. And that's what I always appreciated about her. She always sought out the positive, and we did have a good mission, and we did have a good time together. And when I think of her, I think of the scripture in the Bible that says, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall inherit the earth. And Ginny, to all of us on the mission, was a peacemaker, and she brought comfort and peace to all of us. And even after that, as we get together and different problems arose, it seemed like she was always the person that was comforting everybody else and giving us comfort and peace throughout our lives. And that's one thing I so appreciated about her and loved about her. She always emulated peace and love, and I was always grateful for that. And I am so honored to speak here today, and I wanted her kids to know every conversation we had, she spoke about our children and how much she loved them and their hugs and those things. And those were things we talked about on the mission also, and I can see how everything she wished for in her life came true. And I miss her a lot, but I'm so grateful for how she made all of our lives better. Thank you.
Oh well. Are you okay? Oh, very cute. This is our day at the zoo. There's Noah and John. And Joy and Mary, and Grace is in her stroller. Grace, say hi. She's hanging out. There we are. Where's Isaac? There's Ike JJ. Hi, baby. Say hi. This is the Franklin Park Zoo. And they are chasing the peacock, it looks like. Anyway, we've had a really good day.
So I met Ginny at a time in my life when I was really feeling sorry for myself. I remember it was the Jensen's first week at our congregation in Boston. We met in a church, in a high school, and they were there for Nate to start law school, and nursery was in this high school classroom, and we both had toddlers in nursery, and so our toddlers were kind of, checking each other out, and we were introducing ourselves, and she was full of that warmth and being interested in me, and I was just so down because we had just lost the housing lottery. Now, it's a literal lottery to live in in Cambridge. The housing situation is pretty tight. And after 2 years of being on campus, we were getting the boot. And so we'd found an apartment in a different city that we could afford, and we had to move to a different congregation and kind of let go of this community and these relationships that had taken me 2 long years to build. And I was kind of bitter about leaving. And so, I was pregnant with my second. I think she'd already had Ike. I was miserable and sick, and making a new friend was not high on my priority list, especially a friend that got to stay in the ward that I had to leave. And so we moved, and life went on, and we attended our new ward, and we tried to make the best of things, and then one day I got a call from Ginny to invite us over. And I don't exactly remember how it all happened, but somehow we became close friends, close enough for her to tease me that, she really had to pursue me, and that if it wasn't for that I was just going to kind of drop that relationship. And she called me out on it, and she said, "You just don't turn down an offer of friendship." And years later, when I asked her why she didn't just give up on me, she said, well, Noah and I needed a friend, and so did you. And I am so grateful. She was so right. Just to give you an idea of the strength of her friendship, in a few months, she became such a close friend that when I had my second, it was the Jensens that took in John on our way to the hospital. I'd been there for 2 years. I knew people, but Ginny was the person that I trusted with my baby. And over the next 3 years, we raised those babies together. We wandered all over Boston, to splash parks, to zoos, to museums, to the public gardens. Noah learned a lot of words he wasn't supposed to say, sitting in the back seat of a car while we were driving through Boston. She became like a second mom to my kids. And I'm actually pretty sure that the child swapping tally is very much in your favor, so we still owe you quite a few hours if you ever want to collect on that, Nate. I didn't have the greatest role models in terms of healthy parent-child dynamics growing up, and Ginny really became that model of motherhood for me, seeing her with her kids. Seeing the sacredness with which she treated her relationships, whether it was motherhood, whether it was friendship, whether it was being a wife. She found so much joy in her kids. And her love for them was just palpable in everything she did, and the best part of it was that with me and my kids, it just spilled over onto me. I remember how excited she was just to find like the perfect birthday gift for my kids. At one point, my little 2-year-old then was crazy about animals and markers, and she managed to find animal-shaped markers for his birthday, and it was just such a delight to her and to all of us. As I was going through our old email exchanges, I found this thread of emails that she'd sent me 2 weeks after she had Malcolm. So she was completely exhausted and sleep deprived. But it was a forward from a review of the Battle Hymn of the Tiger Mother. If you've heard of that, it's all about the toxic perils of Asian parenting, and and she wanted to have a discussion about it because she knew how I'd grown up, and so 2 weeks with her brand new fourth, and she was still thinking about motherhood and the ways to improve that in her life. In preparing what I wanted to say today, I emailed some friends from Cambridge who wish they could be here, but wanted to share some memories. And so I just wanted to share some of those with you. Because as I was looking back and looking at some of these memories that were emailed to me, I realized that as special as I felt that I was in Ginny's life, that gift of her friendship was something she extended to so many people. So from Bev Cooper, who was an older single sister in our ward who struggled with severe social anxiety and agoraphobia. This is what Bev said. My memories of Ginny began when her family moved into the ward when Nate entered his first year of Harvard Law School, and Ginny was assigned as my visiting teacher. She stopped by my place on Chinese New Year with an infant in her arms bearing fried rice, which she'd learned to make while serving her mission in Hong Kong. I believe she had a toddler at home as well, but I'm a little vague on the details. In any case, fried rice or any Chinese food is a fortuitous way to start a new friendship, and we hit it off. Ginny knew I had no family, so she always included me in her family holidays. I spent more than one warm, cozy, festive Thanksgiving and Christmas with the Jensens, enjoying delicious food and good company. Sometimes other ward families joined us, and one year in particular, Ginny's parents came east for the holidays. I so much enjoyed meeting them and hearing stories from Ginny's childhood. and past family holidays. As it turns out, Ginny's mother worked decorating celebration cakes, so when Michael's, our local arts and crafts store, offered a cake decorating course, Ginny asked me if I would take it with her. She felt that learning the work her mother did would strengthen their bond. Well, indeed, it turned out to be hard work. I was quickly overwhelmed with all those piping techniques, but Ginny excelled, turning out perfect flowers with frosting and all manner of essential piping techniques on borders and pizzazz. Though I was terrible at it, I had a lot of fun. By the end of the course, Ginny had gained 10 pounds from all the practice cakes she'd baked. Another precious memory I have of Ginny is her support of my attempts to heal from the childhood trauma of family alcoholism. The stake had started holding addiction recovery meetings, but without a car, they were inaccessible to me. Ginny would regularly drive me so that I could attend, and then she'd sit through the meetings with me. This is from Elizabeth Harmer-Dion. I came to know Ginny as a sweet and dedicated visiting teacher, one of the best I've ever had. She consistently extended a hand of friendship at a time in my life when I wasn't necessarily a very good friend in return, either to her or to others. At the time, Keith, her husband, was bishop. I had small children. I was still working as an attorney, and we were in the midst of sorting out Eli, her second son's autism diagnosis. I was self-conscious about my personal inadequacies and generally overwhelmed. Despite my reticence and general unavailability, Ginny quietly continued to reach out to me. I never felt like either a project or a burden, which could result only from the fact that Ginny's love for and interest in me and others were genuine and unconditional. That is rare in my experience. At the time, I was accustomed to being on the receiving end of envy, judgment, or indifference. I was not accustomed to pure, disinterested friendship. In our brief acquaintance, Ginny's example taught me much about the pure love of Christ. And then from Mary Christensen. Ginny and I met while our husbands were studying at Harvard University. We both lived in the same housing complex, Peabody Terrace. I was immediately taken by Ginny. She had such a calm and kind demeanor. One of the things I remember most about her was her beautiful smile and contagious laugh. Ginny always knew how to see a need and figure out a way to help. While studying at Harvard, we did not own a car. Ginny would often invite me to ride with her to the store or take me and my small baby on an outing with her and her boys. It was such a wonderful feeling to be able to go somewhere with a friend. She never acted like it was trouble at all and often thanked me for going with her so that she wouldn't be lonely. She would invite me over to her apartment, and I would watch as she lovingly interacted with her boys and baby girl. I remember thinking at the time that maybe I could have more than one child while my husband was in school and still survive. She made mothering look easy and loved her children very much. She was a great friend and example to me. I loved seeing Ginny again this past fall. Although she was dealing with a horrendous medical diagnosis, she never dwelt on her illness and always asked others how they were doing instead. I will always admire Ginny for her quiet strength, love of people, and for being a true friend. So grateful for Ginny in my life. So grateful for all of you who were her friends, who raised her, who took care of her, who loved her. And in closing, I just wanted to share a few words from Ginny herself that I think she exemplified better than anyone I know. She said how life would be if we always let love flow between us and didn't hide behind our insecurities and fears. Love is so delicate and beautiful. May we always cherish our opportunity to love and to live. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jill Angel. I'm a friend of Ginny Jensen's. We were friends in Tokyo. I probably met Ginny maybe like 2009. We lived a couple streets apart. We served in the primary presidency together, and we were visiting teaching companions. And our kids were about the same ages, so we were really good friends. We used to go to the park after school with our kids, and we'd sit and talk. Ginny had a great laugh. She was always happy, always laughing. Her laugh was just really loud and happy. And living in a foreign country can sometimes be stressful and really hard. When I would start to feel like, oh, I can't do this anymore, I would think, I just need to go to the park with Ginny. And then we'd go to the park, we'd sit and laugh and talk and have fun. And then I'd come home that night and I'd think, okay, I can do this. This isn't so bad. Ginny was also really easygoing. She had this crazy story where one of the boys had broken their arm. I think it was probably Isaac. She called her friend Cece Ellis. Cece was able to run down to the doctor's office, hold the office open because they were closing, and keep it open until Ginny could get there. And a couple days later, I remember we were all at the park, and Ginny had this swarm of moms all around her wanting to hear the story. And Ginny was like a rock star, because an injury in a foreign country is like a nightmare for any mother, because we wouldn't know what to do. So everyone was asking Ginny questions like, well, what did you do? And how did you talk to the doctor? And how did you get there? And stuff like that. And Ginny just like answered all the questions with ease, like, oh, it was no big deal. And like she handled it great. And really it was like totally stressful and scary. Ginny and I took a Saturday tea box making class. This is my box right here. That's what they look like. We had a couple of friends. We all went together. We spent all day Saturday making this tea box, and it was the best day. We laughed and had so much fun the whole day. Ginny's box was green and pink. She was going to use it for Sadie for like a toy box, and I remember she was so excited to take it home and show Sadie the box that she had made. Another thing that Ginny and I did is that we participated in a kimono friendship quilting group. So what that means is we had 6 friends. We each worked on a kimono square, and then we would swap squares at the end. So I'll show you mine. I keep mine on my wall in my living room. This is Ginny's square. Hers was the one at the top, and it was blue. And I just loved it. I loved the colors she picked out. Ginny was so good at sewing, and I love that her name is on it and that it's in my living room. That was a really fun friendship quilting class that we got to take. Another thing I was thinking about was how Ginny introduced me to the idea of second dinner. So what that means is one night I was hanging out at the Jensen apartment. We were talking about kids and food and picky eaters and things like that. And she had mentioned that she wasn't sure why it was happening or how it started, but lately the Jensen family had started having second dinner, which means cold cereal just before bed. And I had never heard that phrase second dinner before, and I just thought that was so cool. So I took that home, and then my family started having second dinner at night. And even now, sometimes at night, like if I'm eating cold cereal, I think about Ginny. Ginny and I had this great plan that our families were going to take a vacation together, that we were going to go to Beijing in June of 2011. And we talked about it, and we had it planned, and it was going to be so much fun. And then the earthquake happens, the earthquake in Japan of 2011, and the Jensen family didn't come back after the earthquake, and they stayed in Utah. So we went to Beijing without you guys, and it was fun, but not as fun as it would be if you guys were there. The whole time I kept thinking, oh, Ginny would have loved this, or oh, this would have been so much fun if the Jensen family was there, and I still feel gypped that we didn't get to take that vacation together. Ginny, her testimony shined through in everything that she did. It was so fun to serve in the primary presidency with her. She was fantastic to work with. And we had all these stories, crazy kids, language barriers, teachers that didn't show up, and it was just so fun it was a privilege to be able to serve with Ginny. I remember one time she was getting ready to speak in sacrament meeting, and she was so nervous, but then she got up there and did it, and she was fantastic. She was a great speaker. Once I remember she organized this visiting teaching lunch. She was going to take us to this dumpling restaurant. Ginny loved dumplings. I think that started probably on her mission. She would always talk about how she and Nate would go on these date nights to this dumpling restaurant in Roppongi. So she was really excited. She organized this lunch. Everybody that we taught with was coming. We got to the restaurant, and she kept saying things like, oh, this is so good. Jill, don't you love it? This is so fun. Look at these dumplings. And a little secret about me is that I hate Asian food. The food was the hardest part for me in Tokyo. And I never told Ginny that I didn't like it. Inside my mind, I was thinking, oh, I don't like this dumpling. But I didn't want to hurt Ginny's feelings, so I was like, oh, yeah, not so bad. But I was so grateful she organized that lunch, and that was a really fun memory I have with her. That is everything I have, the things I've been thinking about Ginny. Ginny, I love you, and I will miss you forever. Bye.
Oh, I didn't mean to take it off. My name is Kelly Simmons, and I met Ginny with the two other PTA ladies over here when they moved back from Japan. Brandy Fullwood, I don't know where you are, she introduced us to Ginny and the PTA, and told us that Ginny had a great program that she wanted to implement in the PTA. So we brought her in. Part of this of what I want to say is from Janelle, who was the PTA president the first year that Ginny did a program called Battle the Books. And I was president the second year she did the program. So we worked quite closely to make improvements on the program and to make it more of a success. So this part is from Janelle, who's over there. With patience and persistence, Ginny pled her case for an unheard of and extracurricular reading program to a group of mostly strangers. With stumbling blocks such as introducing a brand new program, persuading others to come on board was such a huge undertaking, finding numerous volunteers and dealing with budget issues, Ginny pleasantly plugged away at each roadblock and pulled off a fabulous event, inspiring hundreds of children with an increased desire to read, as well as allowing a social outlet and team-building experiences for those same children. Simply put, she had a desire to lift others and give them experiences that increase their feeling of self-worth and accomplishment. Nate asked me to relay a message about Battle of the Books that Ginny did for my own personal child. I didn't know Ginny incredibly well. In fact, I feel really bad. I didn't know she was suffering for so long. I ran into Brandy at Costco the week she passed away, and that's how we all ended up finding out at the school, which I think that was just a hand from God that I actually ran into Brandy that day at Costco. Battle of the Books, if you don't know what it is, she had heard about this program. I think her children had been a part of it when they lived somewhere else. And it's a reading program that is a national program. It's a nonprofit. You read a certain set of books as a team of children in the same class, and then you compete on a big competition day, and you have like 5 rounds, and each round, the winner moves on to the different rounds, and eventually you crown a winner at the very end of this day. And Ginny believed that this program could teach kids to love to read. And reading was the most important thing they could get out of their education. And she was right. So my child was not a very good reader in 3rd grade. She struggled through school until about 5th grade. And Ginny believed this program would help my child. And so I put my child in the program, and she had to read 13 books. And for a kid who couldn't read, or very minimal amount of reading for a 3rd grader, this was a huge undertaking. And so we took it on, and my child, as the year went on, started reading more and more and more. And then we got to the end where they were about to have battle day. And my child had 3 books left to read in a week. And we were like, Ginny, she's not going to get it done. And Ginny said, I bought her a trophy because I know she can do it. And I'm going to reward her with this trophy at the end when she accomplishes this task. She said, you do whatever you have to. Have her listen to one on YouTube, have her read her one, and have her read one. And that's all you guys are going to do for the next week. And so that's what we did. And my child did it. And she accomplished the goal that Ginny set out for her. And my child learned to love to read. And my child's academic abilities increased dramatically because of Ginny. And what Ginny did for my kid, I don't think I can ever be more grateful for. This program was immensely expensive, and we were a PTA that had hardly any money. But she fought really hard to get us on board so that we could spend thousands of dollars and move money around from different places to make this program become a success. And we had a lot of roadblocks, and how you implement a new program is very difficult in the PTA, and there's a lot of steps you have to go through, but she hurdled all of those steps So I was PTA president her second year of doing this program. And so we got together and we hashed out how to make it better. And I remember coming over to her house one day with a couple of other ladies, and we spent a good couple of hours really hashing out how to improve different aspects of the program so she could really make it work. And she put together a team of ladies for the second year that would really help make the Battle Day go better. She rewarded each child who read all of these books. And this was all extracurricular. The teachers were not on board with it. So this wasn't like a classroom, go read a book with your teacher. This was, you've got to read all 13 of these books in order to succeed. And she rewarded those kids, and they felt proud of themselves. They felt loved. They felt able, and their intelligence increased dramatically. And I think that is part of what Ginny's legacy is, that she had a passion, she had a desire, she figured out how to make it work and stepped around hurdles, and she believed in everybody. She believed that you could accomplish what it is you needed to accomplish to become successful in life, and she would push kids and us as the PTA to be successful. And so this program is immensely successful. It moved on with Altaview. Our school still does it all these years later. And it moved on into the junior high realm, and now all the junior highs do the program in the Canyon School District, and now they have a Canyon School District Battle Day, where the junior high kids will battle it out for a day, the winners of each school, and that is what Ginny did. She set out to make her goal, and she accomplished it, and we are forever grateful at Altaview for her bringing in this program that has made such a difference in children's lives. And I know she wanted to go off and be a teacher and make a difference in more children's lives, and I'm sure she's just up on the other side, just making kids read. And making sure that they are successful and feeling loved. More of what Janelle said, Janelle and her became jogging buddies. And they were able to talk about their missions. They both served Asian country missions. They both spent a lot of time in Japan. They talked about their kids, their trials, their triumphs, their husbands, and how much their husbands mean to them in their lives. Talked about their callings that they had in their congregations, in the primary, and how important example it is to those we love. She wanted to be the best mother, the best example to her children she could in helping them learn to make good choices as they navigated through tough times. She understood the need to be strong and faithful to them. She loved her family. She loved to help and serve others, and she will be missed by all of us. Thank you.
I don't know, Mike. I kind of wish I would have gone first. So first of all, I want to thank Nate and the Prices and the Jensens. Thanks for letting me say some things. I hope you don't regret it. And then I want to say to Sadie and Noah and Isaac and Malcolm, turn around for a second. Look at all these people here. I mean, there's a lot of people here. We've packed the room. All of these people loved your mom. They loved her. And in turn, they love you. And I think I can speak for everyone when I say we want to love you and to support you, and we want only the very best for you. I've been trying to think of a way to adequately articulate how Ginny impacted my life. But I can't. I think of it as like getting the best piece of chocolate you've ever had in your life and then trying to tell someone else how it is. And you can't. It's just something that you just have to experience. And I know that all of you knew Ginny, and probably a lot of what I say is you'll find the common theme. But she was exquisite. She was so genuine, so kind, compassionate, positive and generous. She had so many Christ-like attributes, and she exhibited them so effortlessly. The first time I met Ginny was in the summer of 2011. I think it was a bit of a tough year for both of us. She was pretty fresh from Japan. She was holding baby Malcolm, and we were in the middle of the street. I'm her neighbor, so we were in the middle of the street between our houses, and she was so kind, so inviting, and the whole time trying to wrangle this little baby. Over the time, we shared so many laughs, love of flowers, plants, good books, and I still have a bunch, Nate, sorry. And she taught me new things and helped me to be a better mom and person. As moms, we are always trying to figure out our kids. She loved her kids so fiercely. She was determined to give them every and all of the best opportunities possible. She was so proud of them, loved to tell of their accomplishments, and also maybe some of their funny stories. Lunch with friends was the perfect opportunity to share and laugh. I will spare you some embarrassment and not share those today. A few years ago, Ginny and I were sitting in her driveway while the kids played, and I was telling her how I was struggling with one of my kids, who I won't name. And later that very same day, later that night, she came over with a purse of goodies. It had Band-Aids and candy and prizes for that little stinker kid as rewards for every time she did well. And of course, it worked like a charm. That kid would do whatever it took to get something from Jenny's bag, because that's what she did. She saw an area that needed help, and she found a way to help. She didn't hesitate. She didn't wait to be asked. She just did it. She never backed down from what she thought was right. She encouraged me to get involved in the PTA. It was an honor to help her get the Battle of the Books started. She knew kids needed more motivation to read, and she decided she was going to do it. She fought for time, she fought for money, and always in a graceful way. She also calmed my fears when we tried to do an in-home preschool when our boys were little. I would joke with her that she was my sensei. She taught me all about canning, and we had a pretty good system. I had the peaches, and she had the know-how and all the equipment. She was so supportive, always gave me great advice, and was a patient listener. She was a friend that you could tell her anything. And even if she disagreed, she did so kindly, and she never judged. When my baby Jory was born, she had a lot of problems, and Jenny was the first one in the hospital. I was pretty high on drugs, so I don't remember the whole conversation, but she was there. And then after we were finally able to bring her home, she was so willing to help all the time. I think my son Mac lived at her house for probably the first few months. As I drive around, it seems like everywhere has a memory of Jenny. Restaurants, parks, Cowabunga, Spray Park, Thanksgiving Point, soccer fields, countless lunch spots, Asian market, movies. One time it was summer, we decided we want to take the kids to the movie. I don't know if you guys remember this, but I can't remember why, but we didn't have her car, so we just had mine. So we just threw all the kids in the back of the van. There was probably 10 of them or so, and went to the movie. One year she arranged for a surprise party at a Mexican restaurant with a bunch of our friends. We had lots of walks with friends around the neighborhood. We would solve the world's problems and laugh. Or we'd sit in the driveway while our kids would play. A few times when we were feeling adventurous, we'd drive up the street and walk at Dimple Dell. One time she even convinced me to do a spin class there. I don't think either of us walked normal for a couple days after that, and we did go back to walking. She helped me in faith. I was always in awe of how she had so much faith in God, especially this last year. She said on more than one occasion that she had faith that God would watch over her family if she had to go. She was my family here in Utah. Most of my family was in Nevada or somewhere else. We did Easter egg hunts, fireworks, and dinners for each other. She watched out for my kids and was the emergency contact at the school. She was the person I wanted to run and tell my good news to, and she would always be so excited and cheer me on. To say I'll miss her is an understatement. I will deeply cherish my memories of her. My hope is that we will all try to emulate her wonderful characteristics that she so easily embraced. I hope and pray that we will speak of her often. When we see things that remind us of her, that we say it out loud. That when we remember a good story or a funny thing or a loving moment, that we share it and do it often. Memories are like links in a golden chain that bind us until we meet again. Thank you.
I'm Fatima, and I am a person who was loved by Ginny. I was loved, and I got blessed to be loved by one of the best people I know. When I speak my words today, please know that I'm coming from a place of anger. I'm mad. I'm mad. And I was telling Nate, when he said, would you come and say a couple of words? I'm like, I'm probably not the best person. I'm not the best person right now. I'm frustrated and mad, and it's not fair. Even in that, what breaks through the anger and the frustration is the fact that I knew Ginny. And I loved her, as many of you have loved her. But I'm going to tell you first how I met her. I met her freshman year, Utah State University, Richards Hall. I am from Brooklyn, New York. My mother, Puerto Rican Asian, my dad, black. I meet this white woman, and I adore her. She accepts me in my entirety. She accepts me with all my different cultural nuances, with the way I was walking at that time in my life and how I was walking. That's Ginny. That took a Brooklyn girl who was planted in Logan, Utah between two mountains, who felt extremely isolated, lonely, frustrated, and loved me into community, loved me into enjoying my first year of college. To know Ginny is to be brought out of a space that you're not happy about. That is to know, my friend. That is to know your mother. That is to know your sister, your friend, your cousin. Is to be brought out of spaces because she had a force. She was a force that moved in you, changed you, moved the atmosphere around you, that you knew from her love that you would be changed. That's what it is to love a force like Ginny, because it's wrapped up in all this beautiful goodness. And I said to myself, do I have enough words to describe that goodness? No, I do not. So I sit here incapable of giving you the words that define the goodness that is Ginny. I am inadequate to speak into this kind of person. I am. And yet I will stumble and stutter as I try to find what is enough to say that Ginny was a force for good. And perhaps the best thing I can say is that if you've been touched by that force, If you've been touched by the force that is Ginny, pass it on. If you've been touched by your mother the way she touched me, her goodness lives on in you all. It'll permeate and move the atmosphere. And we who loved her, we get to be mad. We get to be mad that she's not here in the same way that she was. That she's here in a different way, and we will miss the way she was here. We get to be frustrated and try and find the words. We get to lament and break down and fall apart. There's a whole book in the Bible called Lamentations. The prophets in the Book of Mormon lament. We get to grieve because we loved so deeply and we were loved so deeply. We get to grieve because she loved us. Noah, Isaac, Sadie, Malcolm, you had the best mother ever, ever. She loved you deeply, profoundly, without any bounds. May you know that the community around here, that we are called also to step into her goodness with you, for you. May you permeate and move as forces just like her in the universe. May you take all the names and stories that are here and move just like your mother did. You are her. May we, as a people and a community who love this great woman, may we be forever changed. Do Ginny good. She said in her last statement, one of the statements, my body's now at rest and I am with God and it is good and you are good too. I remember reading that and I'm like, no, Ginny, I'm not good. I'm not. And then I started to just rest in her words. My body's now at rest and I am with God and it is good. You are good too. We will all have to find what the new good looks like. I will struggle to find what the new good looks like. But leave it to Ginny to tell me I'm okay. Leave it to Ginny to tell us we're good. We're good. She's good. You're good. Whatever this new good looks like, step into it powerfully and wonderfully. God be with us all as you wrestle with what it is to live into the new good. Amen.
So I set the schedule, and I have no idea why I decided to follow Fatima. It didn't. I just feel really silly. I thought about saying some things. And it's hard to figure out what to say in a situation like this. But I appreciate everybody else figuring it out. I think you said something better than I could. Mike, that mean side of Ginny, I experienced that. I having known the exquisite chocolate that is Ginny, I maybe have a slightly more nuanced sense of what that mean streak was, but I think it started when I first met her. We had a relationship that was built on opposition to each other in ideas, and I don't know what she saw in me that made her choose me, because it's obvious that I was a pawn in some plan that she had. But it may have been a match to her stubbornness. And I'm picturing the giant glob of mayo flopping into the bowl. And she was responding to a challenge. You drew a line. And she knows what to do with lines. Shelley, I liked hearing about the giggle before she got in trouble. I guess Julie, I've been trying to read her handwriting as well, and in her journals, because I have now inherited a volume of journals that goes from, I guess she was 13 until she was maybe 21. And I've started to read into them. They're the most entertaining thing I've ever read. When I can discern the writing, but I see that 13-year-old girl giggling in the way she expressed herself in the journal. And I love that person. It's not the person that I really knew. She was a lot more disciplined for some reason. Maybe it was in opposition to me, because that's our vibe. But I love to see her 13-year-old voice. I'm going to read an excerpt from her journal because she doesn't have privacy anymore. If I can find it. Because you know what? I hadn't planned on it. Okay. So she was journaling stories of what seemed like constant humiliation and plans that she had to get boys that she liked, frenemies that she had, and a wild streak that she was trying to tame. Probably my favorite entry was one in which she had, her parents, I guess, didn't trust her to be at home as a 14-year-old, and had asked another girl to come, I guess, watch her. This girl happened to be 16. Her name is Tammy Eastwood. Is Tammy here? No? She says, my parents are leaving, this is September 17th, 1989. My parents are leaving a week from Monday for a couple of days, and I'm planning to have parties. They're making somebody stay with me, Tammy Eastwood. I hope she's ready to earn her money, because I'm gonna be running wild. She had a plan. She wrote it down. Like, for the adventure? I don't know. Her parents could have read that before they left. But I would really have liked to have known that person when I was young. Joy. You said and relayed a lot of messages about Ginny's ability to make friends and keep friends. And I guess maybe it's just a function of my growingly terrible memory. Or maybe it's Ginny's ability to stay in touch with people. But I had completely forgotten that you had to move out of the area and that she had to keep in touch with you. I felt like we were always friends, always together. Just because people moved out of her orbit didn't mean they left her circle. Kelly, I'm not surprised at all to hear the story of the roadblocks that she overcame. That is completely her. I feel like in reading her journals and in the courtship we had and the life we had together, I know she knew the game that she was playing better than she would ever let on. But she knew people, and she knew how to get to them and get with them. And luckily, she had benevolent intentions, and she only did good. And I'm so glad that she did good with me. Fatima, I'm just gonna, I guess, second what you said. I'm gonna struggle to find what the new good looks like as well. Yeah, I don't know what it'll be. I've just put my head down for the last month. I've put my head down for the last year, knowing that this was coming. And we'll see what happens next. But I am realizing now that I've been relying on Ginny to make and keep friends, because I'm not very good at that. I have like the same friends that I had from when I was in elementary school, and that was, that's it. Picking up more friends is a lot harder to do for me than probably I even imagined. Understanding now the benevolent genius that was working things in the background for me. Ginny was a big deal for me. And I know that sounds trite, it's obvious. She changed who I am a couple of times, like formally in once-in-a-lifetime ways. I was a fiance and a husband and a father, and now I'm a widower. That is a strange change. What was my concept of a widower? It wasn't me. But anyway, what is even bigger about Ginny than just that she was my favorite person? She protected my reality. And what I mean is, she knew me best. That's true. But she checked reality for me. We could check reality for each other. And, if she had just left me instead of died, I could still call her and say, did this happen the way it really happened? Or the way I think it happened? But now, I guess I'm just free to totally reinvent the past in whatever form I want, because nobody can check me on it. And I know Ginny would have checked me. So it's a big deal losing her. And this is probably a small thing, but we didn't really see eye to eye on our concept of God. It really, with her and me, it wasn't that big of a deal. She was very, very faithful to the end in ways that I can't understand. In this irrational, inscrutable way. You wouldn't know it from the outside, though. She seemed very rational on the outside. At the core, she had this love that just... it just went everywhere. So she posted some really reasonable things sometimes, like there's this Maya Angelou quote that she posted on Instagram during the last year as she's been dealing with the cancer and the path that it was taking her. She said, the quote is, "What you're supposed to do when you don't like a thing is change it. If you can't change it, change the way you think about it." And that dovetails very nicely with something that the Dalai Lama posted on Twitter, because Dalai Lama has a Twitter account. He or his social media handlers say, prayer by itself is not sufficient to bring about peace of mind. What is much more effective is coming to understand the workings of the mind and learning how to tackle the mental afflictions that disturb it. So I'm grappling with this idea of moving forward without Ginny. And going through Ginny's social media, because again, she doesn't have privacy, although it is, I guess, social media. I'm understanding that I just need to think about it differently, this awful thing that just happened. And this is a promising idea for people who aren't on speaking terms with God. So, I don't know, it's a memorial, but I know some people don't quite have the ability to just say that God has a plan, that God willed this in some way, that, I don't know, there are a lot of stories that people try to tell me to express this tragedy that happened, and how it fits with the way God is, or is supposed to be. And I've been wondering how I should be thinking differently about this event. And I'm still trying to figure that out. One thing that I like is, I don't know, look at philosophy. It's a good place to go when you don't have God to help you out. I kind of like Stoicism because it would help me to think differently. Thinking takes a different turn, and it kind of brackets the idea of whether God's going to intervene or how this fits in with God. Because I guess the question for them was, is Jupiter throwing lightning bolts from the sky, and does it really matter if it's Jupiter or somebody else? But I'm trying to think differently about this. And I guess I have a couple of ideas, and I would love to talk to other people about how you deal with something like this. But one of the ideas is something that I read in the Enchiridion. A guy named Epictetus wrote this. He said, "Never say of anything, 'I lost it,' but say, 'I gave it back.' Has your child died? It was given back. Has your wife died? She was given back. Has your estate been taken from you? Was not this also given back? But you say, 'He who took it from me is wicked.' What does it matter to you through whom the giver asked it back, as long as he gives it to you? Take care of it, but not as your own. Treat it as passers-by treat an inn." I've been operating under an illusion that I maybe owned my time with Ginny. And I'm realizing that I didn't own it. I consider myself a renter who just stayed in a beautiful hotel. And it's really silly to finish your stay in a hotel and curse the manager and be forced to be evicted by the police because the hotel was so great. I didn't own Ginny, and I didn't own my time with her. But I've tried to take the last year or so and reflect on the beauty that I had and not characterize it as losing her, but willingly giving her back to wherever she came from. Because if there's one thing that she and I could agree on, she's back there where she came from. With that in mind, I've spent a little time during the last month working back through, trying to get more Ginny, understand more of Ginny. And I've prepared a little thing that I'm going to ask, that it be started now. So I want to thank everybody who's spoken today for taking the time and doing the difficult thing and remembering Ginny in this time of loss. Because I've decided to kind of go outside of the box with this thing, I don't want to go too far outside of the box. After this presentation, this thing, it's going to be about a half an hour long. Ginny's brother Derek is going to come and give a benediction, and that will be the end of the formal program. Afterwards, hey Jake, how long can we mix and mingle after this? Okay, you don't have to go home. I'll see you afterwards.
And every time I think of you, I'm so glad what we had. And every summer night we stayed up late, blowing smoke in the figure eights. La da 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 la 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 da 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 da.
The day you came, naked or afraid, your mother screams and forces you. The day you came. Oh,
we're going to put Jenny on the spot here for a little bit. We're going to find out how much she really knows about Nate. And I met him, and he's a sweetheart. And we've asked him some questions and videotaped his responses. So this is straight from his mouth what he says. And what I'm going to do, Jenny, is I'm going to ask you the question, and I'm taping you because that was part of the deal to get Nate to do this, is so he can hear your response. So Jenny, I'll ask you the question. We'll listen to your response, and then we'll hear what Nate has to say, okay? The first question, we're going to start out easy for you, Jenny. What's Nate's favorite color? Blue. Okay.
Her color is blue.
Okay. Let me just get the volume here up. Okay. If you, and I asked Nate this, I said, Nate, if you were a fruit, what would you be? Okay, this is called creative thinking. Let your mind go. Like an apple or you have to say why? Two? No.
Okay, banana. If I were a fruit, I would be a watermelon.
It's because he likes watermelon. Okay. What's your favorite color?
Purple. Ginny's favorite color is purple.
You sound so confident. Okay, I asked him, how many kids do you want?
6. We want 6 children.
Okay, the next question was, when was the first time you said I love you? And I asked him this. When was the first time he said I love you? He didn't have to think about this.
He might change pretty fast. I just remember it was like one of our dates that like it was like really late in the night.
Can you give us a month?
Maybe November.
Okay, let's ready.
Well, the first time I said I love you was in the month of November sometime, and it was in the TV room in our house. Yeah. I don't remember what we did that night.
I wanna ask you, do you ever sit and wonder it's so strange we could be together for so long and never know, never care what goes on in the other one's head? Things I felt but I never said. You said things that I never said, so I'll say something that I should have said long ago.
You don't know me.
You don't know me at all.
You don't know me.
You don't know me at all. You could have just propped me up on the table like a mannequin, or a cardboard stand up and paint me any face that you wanted me to be. See, we're damned by the existential moment where we saw the couple in the coma, and it was we were the cliche, but we carried on anyway. So sure, I could just close my eyes. Yeah, sure, trace and memorize, but can you go back once you know?
You don't know me.
You don't know me at all.
You don't know me.
You don't know me at all.
You don't know me.
You don't know me at all.
You don't know me.
You don't know me. If I'm the person that you think I am, clueless chump you seem to think I am, so easily led astray. escapes and needs a shorter leash, then why the fuck would you want me back? Maybe it's because
you don't know me at all.
So what I'm trying to say is
What?
I'm trying to tell you is not gonna come out like I wanna say it, cause I know you'll only change it.
Say it. You don't know me.
You don't know me at all.
You don't know me.
You don't know me at all.
What's his name, Noah?
You don't know me.
You don't know me at all.
You don't know me.
You don't know me at all. What?
Can you believe it?
Looking out my window, there's no doubt about it. We don't belong in this world. Be better off without us. Madness and destruction, maybe that is just who we are. The universe is mostly made of nothing. Isn't it so beautifully bizarre that here we are, watching the wind blow, watching the wind blow, watching the rain so hard, watching the fire getting higher on this strange little star, watching the wind blow, watching the wind blow, watching the rain so hard, watching the fire getting higher on this strange little star. We were always dreaming I seen better days dripping down your face. We don't have to talk, let's dance. For all the times you felt alone, dreaming better, I see better, better days. Too dark to say goodbye. Well, that's some cliche shit, make me wanna cry. Just know that every time I look in your eye, I see better, yeah, I see better, better days. Try to remember that you can't forget. Down with history, up with your head. For sweet tomorrow, she never fell from grace. We may still know sorrow, we got better days. I see better ways, some won't believe, but I don't need much more than faith. For all the times you felt alone, dreaming better, better ways. Too dark to say goodbye. Well, there's some give up shit, make me wanna cry. Just know that every time I look in your eye, I see better, yeah, I see better, better days. Try to remember that you can't forget. Down with history,
in my rearview. I watch you watching the twilight behind the telephone lines with nothing to prove or to assume, just thinking that your thoughts are different than mine in my rearview. I watch you and I gave you your life, but you gave me mine. I see you slowly swim away as the light is leaving town to a place that I can't be, but there's no apologies. Just go on, just go on. There's still so many things I wanna say to you, but go on, just go on. We're bound by blood that's moving from the moment that we start, from the moment that we start. Perfect little eyes, watch the shadows of the clouds on the surface of the ocean out the window of a plane. I get nervous when I fly, I'm used to walking with my feet. Turbulence is like a sigh that I can't help but overthink. What is the purpose of my life if it doesn't have to do with learning to let it go? Live vicariously through, you could do the same. It's the least you could do, 'cause it's a lonely little chain if you don't add to it. So go on, just go on. There's still so many things I wanna say to you, but go on, just go on. We're bound by blood and love from the moment that we start. Just go on, just go on. There's still so many things I wanna say to you. Just go on, just go on. We're bound by blood that's moving from the moment that we start, from the moment that we start.
this was an important thing to get on film, because these kids are going to watch it over and over again. We have about a half an hour, well, maybe about 20-something minutes of.
And I want you guys to know,
Baby,
you other
what's
three
his
that are
name?
watching, are you hearing me? Because your birth were just every bit as precious and important to me. And I don't have video of all of it, but it was just the same. A little different because you're each different, but it means the same to me. I'm happy each one of you are here.
And every time I think of you, I'm so glad what we had. And and every summer night we stayed up late, and smoke in the figure eights. La da 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 la 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 da 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 da.
Thanks. I'll pray in just one second. Nate gave me an opportunity to say something, and I didn't. And the only thing I'd like to say is Rob and I commented numerous times, and many people have honored Ginny, but something that hasn't been said that I think should be said is, Nate, thank you. He's exhibited such unselfish love this past, well, more than just this past year, but in caring for my sister. And I think that needs to be said. Thank you. And for all those that helped in her care. I know that it was Holly and Kathleen and Mom and Dad. Thank you. That's all I wanted to say. Thanks. Our dear Heavenly Father, we come before Thee this time. We're humbled. We're saddened. With this loss. We feel edified because of how Ginny lived her life. We hope that we can learn from her and be kind and listen well and be a friend. Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity we have this day that we could gather and share these memories, rekindle our friendships, and remember Ginny, our sister, our friend. Please bless that we'll be able to go from this day and all of us will be able to heal. And remember Ginny's words that she is good because she is with you, and we are good too. Bless us that we'll be able to travel home in safety as we all go in our separate ways, that we'll be able to mingle today and remember her and share and love and laugh. And hold her memories fondly. And remember her as she would like us to remember her, with a smile on our face and a laugh in our heart. And we offer this prayer humbly and do so in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Pretty soon you'll be able to remember her, lying in the garden singing, right where she'll always be. The door is always open I loved her, and these are the friends that she had. Long may the mountain ring to the sound of her laughter, and she goes on and on. In her soft wind I will whisper, in her warm sun I will glisten, till we see her once again, in a world without end. And owe it all to Frank Sinatra. The song was playing as she walked into the room. After the long weekend, they were a lifetime together, peering in the eyes of children in the clear blue mountain view. The coloring in the sky and painting ladders to heaven, and she goes on and on. In her soft wind I will whisper, in her warm sun I will glisten, till we see her once again, in a world without end. Soft wind I will whisper, in her warm sun I will glisten, and